Thank you, and first of all, welcome. On behalf of the Fulton County School District, my name is Steve Smith, and I serve as Chief of Staff for the district. We're delighted that you've joined us this evening. Thank you again for coming out. This evening, having come out tonight, specifically welcome to Centennial High School. Kibby Crumley is our principal here. She and her staff have worked really hard to host us this evening. So please join me in giving a big round of applause. We were looking for Kibby earlier. Thanks to Ms. Crumley and her staff. Ms. Flowers is definitely here. We see her up there waving. So thank you all for hosting us tonight. We also want to thank Kohl's department store across the street. There's a specific individual, Ms. Lindsay Torbenson, who worked with us just in case we needed overflow parking, so we really do appreciate that. This evening, ladies and gentlemen, we're holding this summit tonight. This is our second summit this week, and we are holding these because safety is really our priority. You've heard us say that safety is a priority for our staff and our students, and we are delighted that you've joined us tonight. Tonight, you will have the opportunity for us to engage with you. And the way that this will outline tonight will be actually in two phases. Our format tonight, the first phase, you will have the opportunity to hear the overview of the Fulton County Schools Safety Plan itself, specifically our work and our collaboration with our local municipalities. You see, obviously, a show of force already this evening. So you'll see that in the first segment. The second segment will involve you as individuals having the opportunity to visit in individual groups that will be facilitated. So again, you'll get an overview this evening, and then you will break into individual groups so that you will have the opportunity for small group discussion that will be facilitated. Please there are handouts that you've received, and if you'll look at the upper right-hand corner, you will see that you will have an indication of what room you are assigned to for the small group facilitation. Now, at this time, you will know that our leadership in our school district comes from our school board. And this evening, I would like you to join me in welcoming our vice president of our school board, Ms. Linda McCain.
Good evening, and thank you for coming out tonight for such an important and timely topic. Our Board of Education has always taken safety and security of your students very seriously, and we wanted to have this opportunity to share with you what we currently are doing, as well as things that we would like to do, as well as get your input. We know that you're concerned about safety, and we're concerned as well. And in fact, just last week, we authorized at our board retreat the superintendent to increase the police force by 6 additional officers, which gives our district the largest school police force in the state. And we are confident that Dr. Rose and his team are working diligently and doing everything possible to make sure that your students and the staff that serve them are safe in our buildings. I would like at this time to introduce my fellow board members who are here tonight. I have Ms. Katha Stewart from District 1, Ms. Katie Reeves from District 2, and Kim Dove from District 7. Unfortunately, our board president, Linda Bryant, Gail Dean from District 3, and Julia Bernath from District 6 were unavailable this evening to be here. At this time, I would like to recognize the mayor of Johns Creek, Mike Bodker, Mayor Bodker, for being here tonight. And I know that we also have a city councilman from Johns Creek, Lenny Zabrowski, here. And if there are any other elected officials that I'm not aware of, I would like you to stand and introduce yourselves. Oh, John. Oh, I'm sorry. And John Bradbury from Johns Creek. I appreciate your attending as well. I'm so used to seeing you at my community meetings that now I forgot you took on a whole new role, so thank you for coming tonight. And we do have a representative here from Karen Handel, Representative Karen Handel's office as well, Ashley Jenkins. Thank you so much for representing us at the federal level. Thank you. At this time, I would like to introduce to you our superintendent, Dr. Jeff Rose, and I will give the evening over to him, and he will share with you the overview of the agenda. Thank you.
Good evening. I want to start just by acknowledging how important this discussion is. I can tell you that we've been rocked by the recent murders in Florida, and it's been interesting that over the years there have been tragedy after tragedy in schools. In fact, it's been sad from my perspective that we've almost become desensitized to that. But the mere fact that I believe that we have come to this boiling point is important for us to acknowledge, because it's important that we take advantage of this sense of urgency. I'm aware of what it feels like to be a parent. I have a middle schooler and I have a high schooler, and so I understand that anxiety. And as superintendent of the school district with 97,000 students and over 100 campuses, the concept of what if this were to happen to us, creates a knot in my gut. Now, this meeting is a community meeting. If you would look around, you will see that we have students, we have some of our educators, we have leaders, we have our faith-based leaders in this room, we have grandparents, we have school district leaders, as has been described. Clearly, we have men and women in blue, which is not just ours, but we rely on our municipalities. This is a community concept. In fact, we have a goal. Our school board has architects of a strategic plan that has a goal, but it also has one of 4 pillars that says we want to be known for community collaboration. And I often ask the question, you maybe have heard me say this before, whose job is it to educate our kids? Well, the concept is it's ours. So if you ask the question of whose job is it to keep our kids safe, I think we should be asking that too, because clearly that's a collective responsibility as well. In fact, I won't be the first one to say this evening, but it's why we say to our students, and we want everyone to continue to preach to our students, that if you see something, we want you to say something. We have an application that allows our students and our staff and community to let us know, and you would be surprised to know the amount of things we can intervene with because of many, many eyes. And we want to continue to promote that. Now, I can tell you that despite it being a collective responsibility, our school district is committed to safety. If you were to look at some of the increases over the past 10 years in Fulton County, you would be impressed, I believe. And by the way, the reason that we have been able to do that is because of you. It's because of our tax base and our school board leadership knowing prior to this event that safety is critical. And yes, we are the largest police force as a school district in the state. We have officers who are SWAT trained. And I know that we're committed, and yet I also believe it's not enough, which is exactly why we're here this evening. We're not satisfied. And school safety is complicated and it's comprehensive. Because of course, pragmatically, our kids need to be safe when they're in school. But the other thing is they need to feel safe. Our students need to feel safe in order for them to be able to meet their potential as learners. And right now, the anxiety, the tremendous challenge our students are facing is actually something that us as adults can't relate to relative to when we were in school. It is different now, and we have to pay attention to that. So there are lots of reasons that our students have some mental and emotional needs, and our job is to support those as well. We need to begin to ask the question of why this is happening and what we're going to do to support those emotional and mental needs of our students. In fact, why is it some of our students feel compelled at times to even make a fake threat? Why would that be the case? What kind of cry for help is that? And of course, we have to intervene, but we also need to think proactively as well. So I'm just going to end by saying thank you. Just to see people here in the audience knowing that this topic is important, seeing that it's important to you, is inspirational to us. So thank you very much. And now I'm going to introduce our Executive Director of Safety and Security, Dr. Shannon Flannery.
Good evening. Thank you for coming this evening. Based upon recent events, in addition to the number of concerns via phone calls, emails, and other forms of communication that we've received over the past few weeks, we know that your hearts are kind of heavy as ours. But we thought it was very, very important as we were responding to some of the questions it kind of dawned on us that perhaps in school settings, we're so busy with the academic piece, but sometimes perhaps we don't do as good of a job as we should in communicating the other things that we're doing, specifically addressing the issues of safety. So I want to take the opportunity to share with you as a community things that we've been doing for a number of years, as well as things, enhancements to safety procedures and protocols that were made available by your granting us the 1 cent sales tax. So I'm going to take this opportunity to leave you a couple of things to speak of. Both the superintendent and Ms. McCain spoke of our police department. Right now, in Fulton County Schools Police Department, we do have 69 officer positions, to include the 6 additional officer positions that have recently been added, and we're so thankful to our Board of Education for making that happen. And I will share with you that under the leadership of Chief Saborski, he has immediately commenced this process of initially vetting the best and the brightest minds. So I say that to share with you that we get a lot of our good people from people who make recommendations. We're in a school environment. Law enforcement is only one piece of that. In addition to our sworn officers, we also have enhancements with our safety and security personnel, because we also have a number in Fulton County Schools, 34 to be exact as of today, a number of non-sworn personnel who act in a capacity as school-based security officers. They're known as campus-based security associates. So it makes us, as was mentioned earlier, one of the largest safety and security departments for a school district. Now, you know as well as I do that training is such a critical part of any process involving safety and security, and I know that many of you are aware of the drills that happen in schools. From the time a child enters into our schools, they can tell you what happens with the fire drill, and we train our staff on that. The thing that I will share with you that you may not have been aware of prior to this latest event is that our staff started about 3 years ago conducting protocol training for the unthinkable event of an active shooter. So I wanted to make you aware, because many of you may or may not be aware, we actually train for that. We train our staff in being very meticulous and ensuring that they understand how to respond until our first responders on the scene. Now, the beauty of it is in most of our schools, our first responders will be on the scene already. Secondarily, we depend so much and work so closely with our cooperating partners in the municipalities and have such good relationships that for those sites that may not have someone there at that particular time, it will be a very, very quick response. In addition to that, I want to assure you that the training that the Fulton Schools Police Department engages in is second to none. Our officers train not just in isolation, but they train collaboratively with all of our partners in the local municipalities. As Dr. Rose mentioned, it's very, very important that we create and sustain a culture that says if we see some things or we hear things, we need to be able to talk about that. And we know that sometimes, for whatever the reasons are in our society, sometimes either our students or parents or other stakeholders may have information to share with us, but might not necessarily know how to go about it, because sometimes I've heard situations in which parents will say, well, I didn't think anything of it, but that little something is something, could be something very major. So in having conversations, I was just kind of taken back a little bit. We have not done a really good job of promoting the tool that we have. It is known as the Quick Tip app. If your child does not have Fulton County Schools app on his or her phone, I am asking you to share that information and assist us by making this a necessity. Embedded within that app is a Quick Tips app. It is a safety and security portion. Anyone utilizing that app can go and pull down a drop-down menu for any of our schools. Tell us what the issue is. We have about 14 pre-populated offenses of things that can range from weapons to gang activity to drugs to bullying to things that are going to be of significance to safety and security or the general well-being of students in our schools. And we're so dependent upon collecting this information. And it is not always an issue of a violation or infraction of a law. It could be a situation where, our students sometimes deal with so much. It could be a situation where a student's having a hard time, needs someone to talk to, or has shared with someone their intent to inflict harm or hurt upon themselves. We need to know that because we're definitely remaining committed to kids. School Messenger is our primary means of communication in the event that there's an issue or a situation that you need to be made aware of immediately. We will actually communicate that via School Messenger. Now, I said earlier that I will share with you some of the investments via SPLOS, or the Special Purpose Local Options Sales Tax. We want you to know what enhancements in our facilities and protocols have been made or in the process of being made as a result of that. We're so fortunate that we're having this meeting here at Centennial High School, and the reason that I say that, prior to coming here this evening, I took the liberty, as I always do, to go into our system and look at the cameras here at Centennial High School. We have basically commissioned, over the past 2 years, we actually have started the process, and this was made available via the SPLOS vote. We have commissioned a state-of-the-art camera system that has some of the most sophisticated artificial intelligence capabilities of any modern camera system, specifically advanced appearance search. From the palm of my hand, I can actually tap into this building's camera system, pretty much tag any one of you and tell you which building in Fulton County Schools you have been in based upon that. The next generation that will be rolled out relatively soon, and there are many people here who are not aware of this, will also employ a facial recognition feature. So the level of sophistications that you see in highly secured environments such as airports or federal buildings is here in Fulton County Schools. We are anticipating that by the end of the summer, every high school in Fulton County will have this system. We have several middle schools already on board. This was a 5-year capital project. So at the end of this capital period, every school, all 105 in Fulton County Schools, will have this updated technology thanks to your SPLOS dollars. Another thing that you may take for granted or you may not realize, many of you know when you come to visit our schools, there are 2 things that happen. Number one, you stop at the front door and you mash that buzzer and request permission to come into the building. This was a result of your SPLOS dollars, as was our visitor management system, which allows us to vet individuals who wish to come and volunteer within our building. I want to share with you that within the next few weeks, again, thanks to you, I'm so thankful, we're so thankful to you, the taxpayers of Fulton County, for funding this. Over the next couple of weeks, we will be rolling out an additional 19 police vehicles for our school district's police department. Within these police vehicles, it will allow us much greater mobility. As you know, all of our high schools and middle schools have officers in which that is their primary assignment. But all of these officers also have a secondary assignment. For example, officers who are assigned here at Centennial High School, they also have the assignment of not just Centennial, but they have the assignment for the adjoining elementary school. I believe it is Hillside. So the expectation for our district's officers are for the elementary school staff as well as students to be as intimately familiar with that officer who's assigned to that beat as are the high school students and staff. And thank you for providing us with these resources such as vehicles, additional vehicles. Right now, the Fulton Schools Police Department has about 40 vehicles that are assigned to the department. So I'm sure you can imagine, again, what the additional vehicles, the capabilities that will be provided. The final thing that I want to share with you is the emergency communications technologies that are being currently rolled out, and I will share with you that we started this perhaps about a year ago. Anything involving technology, there is a process, and what this technology will allow is immediate emergency communication from teachers to administrators to central office personnel. If there's an event or an issue taking place in the school that really demands an immediate emergency response, they no longer have to worry about taking out a flip chart. The problem with flip charts is that sometimes procedures change because there are societal conditions that cause the procedures to change. So we don't have to wait until the next cycle to make modifications in our procedures. So this piece of technology that we're going to be utilizing is going to be provided by a company known as CrisisGo, and it will allow an immediate notification as well as easy access to critical information such as emergency procedures checklist. This is an internal notification, but I wanted to share with you how your tax dollars are being utilized for the purposes of enhancing our safety protocols. Now, finally, I want to again just share with you that many of our protocols and procedures and the safety and securing of our schools and facilities is very interdependent with our partners in the local municipalities. To my left, probably straight ahead from you, we have invited our partners from all of our local municipalities to just come and just make a few comments. Chief Zaborski is the Chief of Police for Fulton Schools Police, and establishing the communications and ongoing collaboration is a very critical part of our mission in safety and security for Fulton County Schools. So at this time, I'm going to ask our police chief, Chief Zaborski, to come up and take a couple of minutes and just talk about this collaboration and cooperation that we have with our local municipalities.
Thank you, Dr. Fenori. It was pretty much last week that I was told that I was going to have to come up here and say a few words about collaboration. And Dr. Fenori invited the folks from our South County partners to come up, stand behind me at the South County meeting, but he left that up to me this time. So everybody that's an officer, would you please come up here and stand behind the podium? I got put on the spot. We're all doing it together. Stand right in front. Oh, you're good, you're good. All right. We ended up on that side. Major Weaver, come on in. Come on in. We've got representation from all of the North County municipal partners that we share jurisdictions with. Sandy Springs, Alpharetta, Roswell, Johns Creek, and Milton, they are all represented up here. I saw a lot of cameras come out and everybody's kind of taking pictures, and it's actually a really great opportunity to do that. Because this, I think, standing behind me is a really great visual of the collaboration that we have on a daily basis. As you all know, we're spread out over the whole length of Fulton County. We've got about 72 or 73 miles north to south, 105 school sites, support facilities, everything else that we have going on. And we sit inside everybody's jurisdiction. Okay, so what you're seeing standing behind me today is the only way that we can really get the job done. I've often been asked as a school police officer what our difference in job is between a school police department and a regular municipality, and I just kind of smile. And I look down at the patch on my shoulder and I say, we all do the same job. The patch just tells me where the paycheck comes from. So this is kind of an idea of what we have to do to get the job done. And it is a community effort. It's a community effort that is drawn in on the community itself, because you see how many police officer eyes are staring back at you. There's a lot more eyes in the community that are looking at us. And we are reliant upon you guys to make sure that we can do the job to keep you guys safe. You guys are everywhere in the community when we can only be so many places. But I wanted to turn the mic over to one of the captains from Sandy Springs Police Department. He wanted to, he was kind of put on the spot too. I gave him a little bit of heads up that he was going to have to come up here, but if Michael Lindstrom, Captain Lindstrom, would come up here to the podium from Sandy Springs. He's got just a few things that he wanted to say about the work that we do together with Fulton Schools Police and Sandy Springs.
Yeah, this is being put on the spot. Bosses are behind me, no pressure, right? A couple of the words that were said earlier kind of reign. And for me personally, I'm a district commander in the Sandy Springs Police Department. We're divided into two districts, and I have the North District, which is where North Springs High School is. So I think some of the speeches and the information that we got today kind of told us about how the kids are here and you guys have the kids. Well, we have the kids too. In our different cities, we're responsible for your kids as well. So it's very, very important that we have this partnership with the school police as well. One example of that for me is personally in the North District of Sandy Springs is when things go on, as simple as just getting a phone call from the chief of police and the school police to let us know what's going on, as well as the principals of those schools letting us know when things are going on and inviting us to meetings. That's how simple it can be. Just bringing us in and letting us know what's going on. When we can have that initial conversation with the people that are involved, they can hear where we're coming from and we can also know what's going on. It goes a long ways. So for me, and you know, getting down to just the level of being a commander in our police department, it's really that simple, and it's just all about communication. And I think they've said that about 25 times. I think I lost count around 22, 23. But it's been that many times that we've talked about it. So another point is that we're one of the departments that's starting up that camera system. So we're beginning with our 911 center. Obviously, they're going to be the people that are knowing what's going on from the calls and whatnot. So we felt it important that that's where it begins for us. And so as we expand on the technology, we're just getting it to the point where, you know, hopefully down the line, every one of our officers could have that in our cars like they were talking about. Technology is constantly evolving, so we have to be on top of it as well. But as you guys know better than I do, we're looking at our young officers to fill us in on how to do all of that. They know better than us, so we're really looking towards them for their guidance and utilizing their skills, because a lot of this technology stuff is probably past most of these guys. So that's about all I have. I'm trying to get out of here as quickly as possible, but I appreciate the time that you guys had for us to be here and share some things and thoughts. Thank you.
I know these guys are probably as uncomfortable standing up here behind me as I'm standing here behind this podium, so I'm just going to go ahead and they can have a seat. So I know they're all going to be very, very happy. So I want to thank each and every one of them for being here. And like I said, I think it really goes back to, it's a really good example of what we do on a daily basis. I could talk for a very long time about some of the initiatives that we do over the course of any school year. in the school police department with all of our partners in the municipalities. But what it comes down to is what Captain Lindstrom kind of hit on is it's that daily communication. I don't think that there's a day that goes by in Fulton County schools that we're not being either visited by a local municipal officer or detective or even command staff, and it goes the other way too. I don't think there's a time or a day that we're not reaching out to them just because we know that schools sit in communities and communities have problems and schools have problems inside the communities as well. And everything that reaches into the school reaches out of the school. And that's where I think it comes down to that we have got to rely on each other to make sure that we get the job done that we need to. We've done a lot of work over the course of the past many years on these municipal partnerships. And one of the big things that was touched on earlier was training. We're one of the very few police departments, school police departments in the nation that actually has an active SWAT team. And that has been a big piece of community collaboration as well. We regularly train with all the municipal SWAT teams. At least we try to get around to them at least once a year and hold a joint training. One of the most recent trainings that we had was over at the Milton Center, the old Milton High School. Right before demolition, we had the opportunity to get in there and do a lot of things with about a dozen different jurisdictional partners that came in to do things that we can't normally do in a building that we can't tear down. We got to do a lot of live training that doesn't regularly get trained on just because we can't tear things up like we like to in the SWAT world. So that's a whole lot of fun, and I think we irritated a lot of people around the Alpharetta downtown area. And if there's any of those people sitting here, I apologize for the noise, but we had a great couple days of training, and it was very valuable. Like I said, I could go on about some of the other initiatives that we do. All the police chiefs that are sitting in the room, we regularly meet as well. I've had the opportunity to do that not only as a chief, but in the command staff position within the police department itself as well. I've had a chance to attend a lot of those meetings where information is shared. We've got one of the officers in the room for Roswell coordinates a North Metro intelligence meeting. Lisa Holland, I want to give her an honorable mention for putting that together too. So that's valuable information. Like I said, it goes down to a lot of collaborative effort that we put in on a regular basis to make sure that we're sharing the information that we need to, because nobody likes to get caught short. I'm not going to keep any more of your time. I know that you probably want to get on to the rest of the presentation, and you've probably got some questions that you want to answer and get out in your facilitation groups. So at this time, I'm going to turn the podium back over to Steve Smith.
Thank you, Chief. Ladies and gentlemen, earlier in our program, Ms. McCain, our Vice President, had the opportunity to recognize elected officials. We are aware at this point that Liz Hausman, Commissioner District 1, has joined us. Please recognize Ms. Hausman. And are there any other elected officials who have joined us since? We do appreciate you being with us this evening. You've had the opportunity now to hear about the physical safety, and the next individual who will come forward is the individual who is the Assistant Superintendent for our Student Support Services. That includes our counselors, our school psychologists, as well as our social workers. That's the social and emotional part that we want you all to hear about this evening as well. So if you would, please join me in welcoming our Assistant Superintendent for Support Services, Dr. Christopher Matthews. Oh, you're over there by yourself.
Good evening, and thanks again for all who are in attendance to hear about our school safety and our student supports. I'm quite happy to be here to share some of the, as Steve said, the social and emotional side of the supports that we provide in our school system. It goes without saying, in many of the incidents that have occurred recently in the past, there was this whole other component, right? The mental health component that has us all very worried in our society today. And so we are doing lots in Fulton County schools and will continue to do lots to support the social and emotional needs of our students. So some of the supports I'm going to share tonight, they kind of fall in 3 different categories. The first one is tools and training that we do in our school system. The second one is community engagement, some of our critical mental health partnerships that we've established over the last several years. And the last category is some of the wonderful student support personnel who actually work in our schools to support our students. So the first category, tools and training. So the first tool I'll talk about is called Text-to-Tip. So in partnership with Commissioner Bob Ellis's office, we're piloting a project called Text-to-Tip. And what that is a text line that any student who may be experiencing some sort of social, emotional, behavioral, mental health crisis can text that line, and on the other side of that line is a certified mental health professional to immediately provide guidance, support, resources, and get that kid connected to the support that they need. So it's in pilot form now. We certainly will study the impact of that, and we really hope to expand that in the near future. The second one is our SEL programs, and SEL stands for Social Emotional Learning. So we have a lot of evidence and research-based programs that our schools use, and it's a school-by-school decision. But what those programs do is they directly teach our students the social and emotional skills they need to be successful. An example is Second Steps, another one's Why Try. There's just a plethora of them out there, and I would say there's at least one SEL program in almost every one of our schools in some form, whether it's delivered through the counseling program in classrooms or it's delivered school-wide. And another tool is our peak academies. So in Fulton County Schools, we are very fortunate that for students who experience a short-term suspension, a long-term suspension, or an expulsion, you'll recall that the student or the individual in Parkland had been expelled. We actually have a program. Through the support of our Board of Education in our district, we have 3 academies, one north in Roswell, one central in Hapeville, and one south in Union City. And that is not just an instructional program. There are counselors, social workers, behavioral interventionists that work with those students. Because what we've learned is often students who are long-term suspended or expelled do have some sort of mental health issue that they're facing. So there's a lot of support for those students to build success so they can return to their home school and be successful. So now on to some of the, curriculum. So Youth Mental Health First Aid, that is a national adult education curriculum. And through a grant that the Fulton County Schools received a few years ago, we have trained to date over 600 parents, staff members, teachers, community members on how to identify the signs of mental health issues in youth and the process to refer them to get the help that they need. So it has been a very effective endeavor in helping us work together as a community and engaging our community to identify those signs and get our kids the help that they may need. And then we have what's called our Think First, Stay Safe curriculum. Think First, Stay Safe is implemented in every one of our elementary schools, kindergarten through 5th grade. And what that curriculum teaches our kids through highly structured lessons is personal safety, online safety, how to make good safety decisions as a very young person. That's been implemented over the last few years, and so we're very happy that now every one of our elementary students are exposed to that very important curriculum. The second category of supports that I talked about are one of the most critical supports, and that's our community engagement and our community mental health partners. It goes without saying that public schools, including Fulton, are not well resourced to provide comprehensive mental health services. So we rely heavily on our faith-based partners, our community mental health partners, and other community agencies to provide those services. In fact, one of our key partners, Summit Counseling Center, who's on many of our campuses up north, Sean and Kathy Murphy are here, and they are on site providing mental health to our kids in the North region. One of our key partners in South Fulton is Odyssey Family Counseling Center. Equally valuable partner, and these are just to name a couple, I'm not intentionally leaving partners out, but we have removed this barrier to access in the Fulton County Schools by allowing these key partners to come on our campuses and provide the services that kids need. It can make the difference because access to mental health in this country is a huge challenge. So one of our key goals is to try to remove that barrier as much as we can for many of our kids. And then we have our APEX grants. So we've written several grants. I've mentioned grants because although we're not resourced, we go out there and try to find them, right? Because we know our kids need it. So we have what's called an APEX grant, and that provided 7 full-time mental health counselors in our schools this year, and we're going to apply next year to try to get 7 or 8 more, because we just can't have enough of those folks in our schools, on our campuses, to support the mental health needs of our students. And then the last category in that same vein are some of the wonderful employees that we have that are uniquely skilled to support our kids in this arena, and that's our counselors, our school psychologists, our school social workers, and our behavioral specialists. So that cadre and that very strong team, I've worked in multiple states and multiple counties, and we have one of the strongest student support teams I've ever seen here. They really are professionals, and they're in every one of our schools, and they're uniquely trained to identify needs in students and get them the help they need by leveraging our mental health partners. So, and I have to say happy School Social Work Week. I was remiss and did not mention that on Tuesday, and I will hear about that. So happy School Social Work Week to our social workers. So I want to leave you, nope, I forgot one more thing. So we have a very important protocol in Fulton, that our support providers are trained in. That's called our Student Crisis Response Protocol. Every one of our counselors, every one of our social workers, every one of our psychologists, every one of our behavioral specialists are trained in this protocol. And what that protocol is for any student that exhibits any risk sign of hurting themselves or causing significant harm to others. The protocol involves meeting with the student, assessing their needs, identifying their needs, meeting with the parents, the guardians, the family members, giving them resources, and asking that that student go get the assessment and the help that they need before re-entering school. And then there's a re-entry meeting that is held to make sure that upon re-entry onto our campuses, that they get the support from us that they need, the monitoring that they need, and the ongoing resources that they need to be successful. So I'll leave you with something that's already been mentioned twice, but I don't think it can be mentioned enough, and that's this home messaging around see something, say something, right? So I bring this up because our youth today, and maybe there was a time when we thought anytime they saw something, they'd run and tell mom, or they'd run and tell dad, or they'd run and tell a teacher, right? That's not necessarily the case. The way that our youth communicate now via social media and the online presence and the communication that's out there, we have to be ready for that. But the message is still the same. If they see something, they have to say something. So parents, your takeaway, your homework is to make sure that you have that conversation with your youth and your students. That if they see something or hear something about a student wanting to do some harm to people, they have to say something, whether it's you, whether it's us, whether it's through the quick tip in the Fulton County app, it's just critical. The recent situation in Vermont, I don't know if you read about that, but a student had gone, and this was very recent, a student had gone online on Facebook, made some very explicit threats to go into his former high school and do some horrific things. A current high school student saw that Facebook message. She emailed her high school guidance counselor, who immediately called the school social worker, and within hours the police were there and had arrested that student in possession of a journal with very clear details to do horrific things at his former high school, and had just purchased the weapons to do that. So see something, say something is critical. Please help us instill that in our youth. Quick tip in the Fulton County Schools app is one means of saying something. So thank you for allowing me to share just some of the supports that we provide in Fulton County, and I will turn it back over to Steve Smith.
Thank you, Dr. Matthews. Now, ladies and gentlemen, we've come to the time in our program where it's the opportunity for us to engage with you. So please know that the facilitators will engage with you in a series of questions, and if I could remind you to please turn your attention to the upper right-hand corner of your agenda. That will determine the location that you will please report to. There are also, I don't see them yet, but there should be individuals, if you'll look for individuals with neon green papers, I see some are moving already. Follow those individuals, and they will be the ones who will direct you to your appropriate place. You will have the opportunity to discuss safety issues and pose your questions. Thank you again for coming out this evening, and we look forward to seeing you in your individual classrooms. Thank you.